Welcome back, everybody. Your boy Cappuccino here on another great episode of Let's Talk Local. Obviously, we have the magician in the house, Jackie Postolnik. Always great to see Jackie. And listen, if you like what you see here today, make sure you go to the old Google box on the YouTube channel there. Go to 216 Creator Studios live tab. Click like, share, subscribe. Make sure you ding that bell for future notifications. We do appreciate your support. Jackie, how you been?
Excellent, Drew. How you doing?
Good.
How
good.
you feeling?
Good. Yeah, really good. We're past the Halloween now, right? So, we usually do at my house, at the House of Casaccio, is a massive Halloween thing, and people come in costumes. We had about 20 this year, all family members. You can only handle so much family for so long, right? And then we do pumpkin carving contest, and then everybody puts it out in the graveyard that I create in my yard and feed everybody, and then they all get to leave, and then I have a massive mess.
Where was my invite?
To clean up. I wish I could tell you I didn't bring any outsiders this year, just due to the fact of time, money, and I wasn't going to do it at all, Jackie. I ain't gonna lie to you. My mother-in-law was like, "You better be doing it this year," and I was like, "Great." And then, did she carve a pumpkin? No.
Dare not cross the mother-in-law.
No. She
called you an outsider.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, listen, there's two types of people, Italians and people who want to be. If Jackie is my family, and I love her dearly, I would love to have her at the Halloween extravaganza at the old Cappuccino household. However, I'm going to start planning for more outside family. I think it's just that time, So hopefully everybody had a safe Halloween. Looking forward to we got some new stuff coming around the corner. Let's Get Hired is going to be a show coming around the corner. It's going to be for people looking for employment locally. So we splash that pond here locally and help people get work, Jackie. That's what we're trying to do, right? We're just trying to help the community and the people in it. So,
awesome.
But you got a fantastic guest today. Why don't we go ahead and talk about her a little bit?
Absolutely. Thank you. So today we have the wonderful Jamie, the Scholar. No last name, just the Scholar. She runs a national...
Like Prince. Are you like a prince? Right? Jamie the Scholar.
Instead of purple, she's got the green.
Yes, I plan on turning my name into a symbol soon. So, just pick one on the keyboard and we'll make that my symbol.
Awesome.
Jamie is amazing. She is a premier service provider for conscious college planning that I run. And she helps students K through college with tutoring, math, physics, English, everything in between, ACT, SCT.
Everything in between.
And she's got a great story. We had to have her on today. So, she had a personal journey that took her from significant learning challenges all the way to the halls of Harvard and earning 4 degrees. So, we have a lot of questions for you today. How did overcoming, those personal obstacles, fuel your passion for helping kids, helping neurodivergent students, especially through your tutoring platform?
Yeah, so if you would have asked me what I thought I would be doing when I was a junior in high school, I would have told you I would have been working in a biology or a chemistry lab or something, because I loved science and math. And if you would have told me that I would have become an English teacher and that I would be running a tutoring company, I would have laughed in your face. Not what I thought I would be doing, but in overcoming my own challenges and just figuring out in my special ed class that I took in education and college, reading through that and going, oh my God, like this actually makes sense. I think I understand why I've been struggling, because no one ever thought in high school or elementary school to be like, wow, maybe there's a reason why this is going well and this is not going well. And so just going through that journey and having to struggle as much as I did and teach myself and figure things out without a lot of support from really anyone, because no one knew anything was going on and I was just trying to survive school and move forward. Having the ability to move through that and master some of those skills that I struggled with my whole life, and then being able to turn around and give that gift to other students and help train teachers on how to help students that are not inclined in certain ways, and to just be able to break things down and make things fun and engaging and high level for those kids. It just became my life's work and my passion, and I am oddly very grateful to that second grade teacher that put me through a horrible experience that kind of started all of this, which I didn't realize at that time would happen. But that teacher gave me a gift. She gave me a purpose for my life, and I live that out every day.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite a transformation. And as I'm listening to this, I'm thinking my career coach mind is like, yeah, how did you go from science and math to English? Hard pivot. I have to know.
So here's the story. Kind of going back to second grade, which was when all of this happened. I struggled learning how to read, and I wasn't horrendous, but I definitely was on the lower end of the curve of being able to read fluidly, understand what I was reading. And in second grade, I had a teacher that said, oh, Jamie, come to the front of the room. And I was like, oh, this is great. I'm going to, I just finished a math test. I was like, I aced it like normal. I'm going to get a prize or something. I walked up to the front of the room and she said, I need to talk to you. And she said, everyone stop what you're doing. I'm like, ooh, this is going to be big. And she looks at me and she goes, I don't think you can learn how to read. And I don't think you belong in our school. And I think you might need to go to a special school for people that are like you, that are the R word, which I will not even say.
What?
And then she just told me to turn around and go back to my desk and do my spelling. And the looks on these kids' faces, that when I turned around, it was like half horrified, like some people just like giggling because they were like, didn't know what else to do.
Right.
Like looking down because they're like, oh God, am I next? Just a horrible example of what can happen when you have a teacher that doesn't belong in the education system and doesn't know how to manage things correctly or whatever. So I didn't read from the time I was 7 to 17. I looked at bold words in books. I listened in class. I took good notes. I learned how to adapt to basically not reading anything. And that's what I did. And I survived. And then when things started to get harder and you were expected to do more and write papers, it was bad. And I was like, oh God, like I sound really dumb. This sucks. And so, when you're a junior in high school, you start talking about where you're going to go to college and what you're going to do. And I'm like, I cannot like keep going like this, where I'm writing literally at a 5th grade level. I have no punctuation. Wow. My sentences don't make any sense. Like, this is awful. And so I worked on it and, asked for some help where I needed it and just kind of figured out my own way of doing things that made sense. And through a lot of struggle that it didn't have to be that hard, I kind of started overcoming things in later high school and early college. And then I started to actually get good at it and like it. And I'm like, oh, wow, I can express myself now. And I don't sound the way I used to. expletive. And so that was really exciting for me. And it sparked something in me to want to give that gift to other people, that they knew that they were smart and they could but weren't given the right tools. They weren't taught in ways that made sense to them. People didn't pick up on maybe learning issues that they had, or learning differences between student and teacher that many times in a big classroom go unnoticed. And there's a lot of people in the education system that are just either not trained properly to pick those things out, or they're overworked and they don't have the time, the resources, and the money in the school district to do the types of things that you can do on a one-on-one basis. And so just the ability to transform someone on that one-on-one basis, when you have a teacher that knows what they're doing and is passionate and is excited to create curriculum for that specific kid, it's a game changer for people's lives.
Yeah, I mean, that's so powerful. I'm like, was that what you wrote about in your college essay? Because it's like, it's
No,
transformative. Yeah.
I actually didn't. I think when I applied to college, I think my essay was so bad, I'm surprised they accepted me, probably because my grades were decent.
Yeah.
I had a lot of activities, or they were really desperate. I don't know. But yeah, it was whatever I wrote for college applications was, I promise, not very good at that time.
Yeah, well, I think that goes to show, for students. I mean, I don't know if we're going to have any student listeners ever, but hey, this is so great that you have had to transform something that was intense and painful and probably just really difficult for you, and be able to turn it into a gift and support students who really need that encouragement. A lot of them do. As you know, we're in the space together. But it's just really cool to hear about, hey, this is what I thought I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I took a hard pivot. I turned something hard. I made it great. And, I mean, to also just step into this role as a business owner and not, working for a learning center or some other role or capacity. So what made you, want to embark on the journey of entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I was, again, something that I didn't picture for myself, 10 or 15 years ago. But having taught in the public school, in the private sector, training, doing private tutoring, running different things in a leadership capacity, what I realized was that I kept bouncing from system to system. And I would try to go into the next learning situation, whatever organization it was, with a positive attitude. And I found that there's a lot of people running educational systems that either A, don't know about education and they have a business background, or they don't understand how to lead. And so a lot of things that could be done well and could be done better and strategically could be altered for effectiveness, they're just not done. And I would get the same things everywhere that I was. Well, we don't do it that way. That's not how we do it. Well, how you're doing it isn't working because you have a 35%, reading success rate, or you have whatever it was that was going on. But it's just a lack of openness to trying something new. A lot of budget constrictions on, or restrictions on, this, we only have, $8
Yeah.
for this, and this. And it's like, okay. And a lot of teachers out there are paying for school supplies and programs and apps out of their own pockets because the school, they know it's necessary, and the school just doesn't have the funding to support what they're doing in their classrooms. And it's like, do they sacrifice the quality of the education, or do they put some of their own money into it and make it great for their kids? And so I was just frustrated with all of the walls I was hitting trying to do great stuff. And I loved all the populations I was working with, but I found that the administration or the directors or the leadership, whatever they were called, I was always hitting walls and having to pivot and having to work within these tiny little rooms instead of this big warehouse of space. And I'm like, you know what? I think I can do this on my own, and we can simplify a few core principles that I feel are really important in education and make it great and make it a great place for parents to come where they know their kids are going to be taken care of. They've got trusted professionals that know what they're doing, that are going to communicate with them, where the kids know they're logging on and they've got somebody that's invested in them as a human being. Like, yes, we care about your algebra class, or that, you have trouble distinguishing between B and D, or whatever your struggle is, but we care about you as a person.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was, in my mind, and thinking for the audience here because I already know, but I would just love for you to share some more on like what makes Jamie the Scholar a unique place for parents because, even Drew is saying, "Hey, I didn't know that something quite like you existed," right? And, now I can be able to know that there is a place for neurodivergent students to go get this specialized tutoring and this level of TLC. So with, there's a lot of different tutoring options out there. So like what makes Jamie the Scholar a good fit?
Yeah, thanks for asking, because there are a lot of options, and it's confusing for parents. Parents are going to put tutor near me into Google and they're going to get a whole bunch of options. And how do you weed through that? How do you know what's quality and what isn't? And there are a lot of brick and mortar type places that are on commercials and that are going to pop up as sponsored ads when you put in tutoring anywhere. And some of those places are great and some of them are not. And I would say, the things that parents really need to be asking themselves is not just what it costs, but what am I getting for that price? If you're getting, a good price, but you have a high school student that has no idea how to teach, but maybe they know how to do chemistry or how to do fourth grade math, that might be okay. And it might not, depending on what you have going on. And so there's a lot of really important questions to consider when you're looking for something. Some of the things that Jamie the Scholar is built on that are my vision are everything we do is one-on-one. There is a totally different dynamic in one-on-one with a tutor and a student that are matched purposely together for not just subject, but personality and learning style and teaching style than there is in a small group or a classroom or any other type of situation. It is totally tailored to that student. So I talk to all the kids before they start with us. I want to know who they are. I want to know what's important to them. What do they do after school? Are they in wrestling? Are they swimmers? Do they love to read or bake cookies? Or like, what's your jam? And I ask them a lot of questions so that I can understand how they learn, who they are. What type of teacher do you like working with? Students are very honest. They'll say, hey, I get off task and I need somebody to kick my blank a little bit so that I get back in line, or like I zone out sometimes, or I need somebody that can talk to me about my day because I've got anxiety and I need 4 or 5 minutes at the beginning where I can just kind of decompress before I start working on physics or AP Calc or SAT prep. And so those things are important. And a lot of situations that I was in various organizations, public, private, urban, rural, you name it, the kids are left out of the conversation. The parents would go into the principal's office, into the director's office. The kid would sit outside and have nothing to do with the conversation. How do you set up a great learning situation for a kid when that kid has no say in that process? When that kid, you don't know who they are. You don't know what their personality is. You don't know what's important to them. How could you possibly set up a good learning situation for that kid? So that process is first and foremost in everything that we do. And then on the other side of it, we have teachers that are really high level educators. Like, this is not a organization where you have high school or college students that are just kind of like passing through. This is people's passion. This is their profession. This is their chosen path in life to teach, and they have the pedigrees behind it, the experience, and the excitement of working with kids and creating for them. there's a lot of places you can go where you can log on and you can say like, hey, I need somebody to help me with geometry, and they're like, oh, okay, somebody's available at 5. Well, that's great for like a one-time situation, but that doesn't help in the long term. It's a band-aid. You have to figure out what is the mismatch between teaching and
Right.
learning
You don't learn
style.
in a day. You can't
Right.
possibly. It's a process,
It's a
and so
process.
you have to support it. Yeah, I mean, I'm just hearing like, if somebody's looking for a tutor who's purpose driven and who's clearly passionate and wants a very tailored experience for their student to know that they're going to get, met with genuine interest and with their
Hmm.
genuine interests in mind. I think that's, from day one, I knew that we would be a good match for business partners because, that's my approach as well. And if I interview with a family and I genuinely don't think that, because I'm a one woman shop, if I my services aren't going to be a good match, I'm upfront
Hmm.
and help point them in the direction of somebody else that can be a good fit, you have the luxury of a large team, and I think that's really cool for my families to know that, like, hey, you have this resource. Whether I work with a family or not, your name gets passed along so that they know and they can tap into, all of the, specialties of people on your team. So,
Yeah. And
yeah.
I think one of the things that's really great about having the diverse team that we have is that, some things are very general, like, I want a tutor that's going to be nice and have, explain things clearly and things like that. And, I try to go deeper, and sometimes it's very like, okay, as long as somebody does these basic things, we're good. Other times people have very specific requests, like, we've had X, Y, and Z happen in our family, and we're only comfortable working with, this gender of tutor, or we want someone that's young to connect to our kid because, he doesn't gel well with people that are in this age bracket, or vice versa. We want someone that's older and more experienced, and that, and everything in between. Sometimes people have preferences with, I'd really like if somebody could be a mentor to my kid, and this is kind of what we're looking for because we need that in our life. And so it's really awesome to have the diversity on our team that we have, and people that have the background in the variety of subjects and special ed and all different kinds of areas, so that we can meet those requests and we can pair people with people that are really going to make a difference.
Yeah, parents really need the support. There's just a lot going on with managing school and making sure, everyone wants the best opportunities for their kids
Yep.
and so that's where it's like it's so funny because, especially when I was in high school, I would never thought I would be helping teenagers or wanting to work with teenagers, but it's honestly has been so fun and they inspire me, keep me young, and I think in some ways too, just I'm like obviously it's a professional setting, but it's where, I'm meeting them where they're at, so
Hmm.
it's like that goes a long way. I was telling you about this book, uh, what house or what school can be by Ted Dintersmith. I don't know if
Hmm.
you looked into that yet. Um, just coming out of busy season, right?
Yes.
But a lot of what you're saying with your experience in education and your motivations for wanting to branch out and create your own system externally to support parents and students in the community, it talks all about that. And I think that's a really important book. Every student that I have that's going, like, thinking about going into education, I gift them that book. Um, because it's incredibly life-changing and inspiring because it's not just the teachers, it's not just the boards, it's,
Hmm.
the lawmakers and like all the little things in between and all the politics and the, budgetary financial stuff. And so those all create the space of education as we know it today. So yeah, so I love being a part of that support alongside you. And yeah, I would you Drew, I mean, you're a parent, so it's like from your perspective, is
So
I'd
yeah,
love to hear
all right.
that.
So there's a few things I could chime in. I didn't want to interrupt you guys.
Yeah,
We're on
hit me,
a
Yeah.
Drew.
great flow. So my mother was an educator of 45 years in the Catholic school system.
Good for her.
So she obviously wasn't in it for the money, right? My mother was the teacher that wanted the problem kids and wanted to stay as late after school to make sure that she was able to help them get through, and she had a way of doing it. Kids learn in a certain fashion, and everybody's different. We
Yep.
work in variable, right? We're people, and so are our kids. And I love, Jamie, that you bring up the fact that nobody asks the kid. Education is a certain set of standards, and so teachers have to follow what the new set of standards are, and they're limited in order to do certain things. And on top of that, you have teachers that are educators, and then you have fillers. That means there's not enough great teachers to go around, but someone's got to sit in that classroom. A good example, both of my kids are on the spectrum. One of them's OCD, OCPD. The other one's ADHD. And both of them are highly intelligent with processing speed and memory. But that anxiety kicks through when they have to ask a question because the answer they're usually given is you don't pay attention. And they're like, no, we just don't understand it. And then they're pointed to a Chromebook saying, figure it out. Now, my oldest is a whippersnapper like me, and she'll turn and be like, well, isn't that your job? And then they're like, well, it's because of kids like you is the reason why I'm rethinking my career. And then she says things like, well, McDonald's is hiring. Right.
So a really positive student-teacher relationship. is what you're
Correct.
saying.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So my oldest is very smart, and she's able to go outside the box to try to figure things out. Certain things she can't, that she would need someone like you and your team for, right? The youngest one, who is a really bad germaphobe as well as severe OCD and OCPD for perfection disorder, if she writes a 5, that 5 doesn't look good enough, she'll try to write that 5 for the next 3 hours. And then there's a disconnect between teachers and her. Well, she's on a plan, right? And does everybody follow that plan? No. Older teachers, they give her a bit of, I don't care what your problem is, suck it up, buttercup. And so, what I understand coming as a son of an educator is, listen, there's one teacher to that room. If they're a real educator or not, there's a lot to take on for a whole group of kids. To take out separately for an individual to back an entire class up, I understand that. I get that, and that could be tough. However,
Almost impossible.
we have these great foundations for becoming a doctor or a lawyer, a bar exam, and all these things. But teachers, they don't get paid enough, but there's not enough structure of an institution for education for teachers. If you're knowledgeable and educated, doesn't make you a great teacher.
Yeah.
That makes you a smart person.
Being educated doesn't make you an educator.
Absolutely, 100%. And I love the fact that you're vetting out based on passion, loyalty, and dedication, because those are things that you don't teach. Those are things that are natural. And then everything else is teachable. So people that you have on your team that are able to adapt and build a relationship with a kid in order to figure out how that match works, based on what their likes, their personality, their dislikes, how they like to be talked to. Kids don't like to be talked down to.
No,
That's just, did we
absolutely
when we
not.
were kids? Of course not. So really, we're just putting the brick wall up in front of them by doing that. And so, and listen, I think the educational system is going to be turning into what you've already created. I'm not going to lie. I think that's where we're moving towards, because one-on-one equals more focus. One-on-one equals more excitement and passion to want to learn. It's not easy when you don't have enough people to do one-on-ones with. So we say 5 to 1 or 10 to 1 even, right? To where it makes sense.
Yeah, we need to things need to be reshaped for sure.
Absolutely.
Because, it is also, not everyone, I realize the limitations of what we do as well is like on the other side of the coin. Like not everyone who needs help can get it one-on-one. And
Correct.
there are some great programs. And, I was just on a call today with a teacher from Crystal Lake South. And they're doing great things. So it's like it's really depending on the school, it's depending on the split of people.
Absolutely.
And so we can't unfortunately just standardize that, but it's not a standard situation. You don't like your class of 10 students in the morning is going to be different in the afternoon, right?
Well,
So,
the attention span, right? You know, who has the attention span to spend so many hours? You're cooked after like
yeah.
3 4 hours, period.
But it depends on what's actually going on. You know, like you can light kids up and you can get them enthusiastic about things if you make it pertinent to their lives, if you involve them in the process of like what is important to you? What do you not understand about this topic?
Right.
And you know, you don't know how many calls I get where kids are crying in the background or they're upset or they're having an anxiety attack and their parents are calling me mid this process to find out about us. And so many kids, when I talk to them, will tell me, you know, I asked the teacher for help and the teacher just tells me to figure it out myself.
Yep.
The teacher just tells me to look at the Chromebook. The teacher tells me to ask one of my friends for help. Like you have a kid that is struggling, that is having anxiety for whatever reason, whether it's they have a B and they want an A or they're getting a 37%, it doesn't matter. That is a visceral experience that student is having, and they are
Right.
reaching out to say, I need help. And that's what they're getting. You know, I have other students for a lot of classes that are APs that will say, you know, you have to sign up for a time with the teacher, and all the
Right.
times were taken and there's not enough times. There's like 37 students that need help and there are 12 times. And I got there later than you know, because I had gym or I had whatever and I couldn't, you know.
Right.
So it's that, what do you do with that? You know, it's like you understand that teachers have limitations in their time and what they're able to do, but what is that? How does that affect a kid? It makes them not want to ask for help. It makes them feel defeated. It makes them feel like they can't learn. They're not on par with their peers. And it may be very simply a teaching and learning mismatch where you have a teacher that talks a lot and a kid that's a visual learner, or you have a kid that has ADHD and they have
They
to
learn
sit
different.
quietly in their seat for 45 minutes and they can't move or get up or do anything. And if they try to, they get yelled at. So, you know, it's a lot of times it's that. It's not even something that they're very simple things that could be remedied, but we don't always have the right people in the classroom. We don't always have the right systems that
Correct.
are dictating what goes on in those classrooms. And so because of that, there are so many educational options out there for trying to fill the gaps that schools should be mostly doing, and they're not.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like I think about these things a lot too because we're seeing, you know, we're not seeing a whole school of people. We're seeing, you know, a set amount of students and we care about every single one of their experiences and it's like how can you possibly solve these issues? And so you just do the best you can. And I think a lot of it too is like, I mean, I'm not a counselor, but I feel like there's a lot of life coaching advice happening of how to
Mm-hmm.
deal with those issues. Because when there is something that truly is out of your control, what do you do? Right? And they're coming to like, maybe they didn't open up to anyone else about this, or they just happened to mention it to you. It's like, well, let's figure this out, you
Well,
know?
everybody preaches that social conversation and that helps build the confidence level and everything. Today works in a different space. It's a different world of today. And you know, listen, when a kid feels defeated, I mean, when I was young, I'm dyslexic. Okay. I had to con my way out of school and then learn how to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And then I figured it out and I was like, okay, I got it. Right. But if you math, not my great, you give me two numbers, I get a color. I don't know. Right. Hey, still like
Devin
that.
Ford, blue. Go.
Thank God my wife is great with numbers. Otherwise I'd be broke. But you know, to get back to it though, but if you're a kid, you feel defeated.
Mm-hmm.
And that could be, you could have a great GPA, you could have straight A's. But if it's that one thing in school that your teachers they want to feel so empowered that they got to demean you, and then that crushes you, right? And now by the time they get to people like Jackie to get help to go to college, they feel like they're not college worthy. It's imposter syndrome, right?
Yep. That
And
happens.
so
Yep.
And so, and then Jackie's got to try to pick up those pieces and go, hey, listen, there is no imposter syndrome here. You are awesome because look at your grades. Well, they say I would never show up on time. You never showed up on time for that class, but you still got an A. So the problem isn't you, it was the person's ego, not you.
Yeah.
And so if we were able to adjust our school system to work in that fashion, to where it's like, you know, my daughter's she'll be late for her funeral. I you know, she's just late all the time. However, she's super smart and she does great in school. And so when they're like, well, you know, you're always late, and I get a call and they're like, well, you know, she's been late like 13 times.
But she shows up.
Right.
She shows up.
Absolutely.
So,
she
like...
shows up and she's like, late. You know, she even admits it. I'm sorry, I'm late. I'm just that person. And I'm like, well, what is she getting? Is her grades of being affected? No, she's doing great with grades. I'm like, okay, so why are you calling me?
Yeah.
You know, why is this the problem? I get it. That's something we can work on at home. Those are life experiences. That's called an experience, hands-on experience. If you go to work and you're late several times, bad things happen, right? Well, those are things.
Depends on where you work.
Well, that's true too. We're all entrepreneurs in this room, so you know what I mean.
I think for a reason, right?
Right.
Like we all have
but
things.
yeah,
I'm feeling like Jackie was always late to everything.
I don't know because I've never seen her be late for anything.
Well,
She's more on
I haven't
point than
either.
you know. But no. So for what you're doing, you're a superstar for even wanting to jump into that space and do that, because that can't be easy. I'm sure it wasn't an easy journey to get where you're at. But you found all the flaws and you found a resolution to the flaws, which is fantastic. I'll probably be calling you just due to the fact of I have kids that need that kind of help. And
Well, the flaws are honestly just that it's not like our school system are not built for quality. They're built for
Herding
moving
cattle.
people through.
Yep.
Exactly. They're built, and and it's basically the same system we had in like the 1800s with the schoolhouse. It's just that there's more kids and there's computers now, like, and
Well
Chromebooks
said.
and stuff. Like
Well
it's
said.
basically the same system, and it doesn't work, and it hasn't worked for a long time, and you see the effects of it imploding. And yes, COVID affected things, and yes, like, students' attention is not the greatest with all the social platforms. There's a lot of things going on in our lives that affect things as well, but the system is not and hasn't been keeping pace with what students need
Right.
for a long time, which is why there's so many other things going on with people pulling their kids out for homeschool or doing tutoring or doing other programs or going to Russian school or Korean school or whatever they're doing on the weekends to try to supplement things, which is, it's great. Education's great, but you shouldn't have to go get an entire new education because the one you're getting isn't good.
Yeah.
I can agree with that.
Or
Well
just
said.
be like, hey, the system's broken, but here's how to just get by and just graduate, it's,
Yeah.
and then I think we put a lot of pressure on kids to have this like level of excellence when we are delivering them an environment and a platform from a public school point of view that they're not setting themselves up for excellence, and I think that there's a lot of pressure. I mean, this year I felt it more than any other year that there were so many kids. I'm just going to say at surface level, we're procrastinating. That's not the real problem. The problem of the procrastination is what has lied underneath is that they just have way too much responsibilities and going on,
overwhelmed.
and they're overwhelmed.
They're absolutely, because everyone's telling them you have to take 5 AP classes a year or you're not going to make anything of your life, and you have to be in 47 clubs and 64 sports and music and activities, and these kids are not getting enough sleep, they're exhausted, and they're
is huge.
stressed out beyond belief. And the competitiveness, especially in the suburban areas around cities in the last 15 years, has just skyrocketed. And so in order to keep pace, you have to do what everyone else is doing. And that pace is just not sustainable. It's not sustainable for these kids. And Yes, it's great to have, I mean, you're talking to a Harvard nerd. Like I get motivation and aspirations of like, I want to do X, Y, and Z with my life. But right now, the society and school is teaching these kids that the only path you have in life where you're worth anything is to take a bunch of AP classes and do X, Y, and Z on your scores for ACT and SAT. And then, then you can go to X college. And that's not the only path. Like, there's a lot of great colleges. There's a lot of great technical schools. There's a lot of places that you can go where you don't have to go to school after high school and you can have a great job and a great life. If people want that path, we can help them get there. But society has dictated that all the other paths are less than. And I really hope that that turns around because we need people in those fields. We need people to create. We need people to fix HVAC and do plumbing and
I'm
construction.
glad that you brought that up because there was a time where every parent was like, my kid's going to be a CEO of a company.
And my mom and her mom get to say that.
Yeah, right.
Well, listen, my parents, period, were like, we just hope you don't eat crumbs off the ground.
So a really high bar.
Right.
Okay.
But for a long time, a lot of parents, they wanted that college education for their kids to become some kind of a business professional. But everybody forgot about the trades. And what people don't realize, that's a lesser of a listen, you could be an iron worker making $250,000 a year.
You can have a great life.
Absolutely.
Making bank, doing a lot of these things that, people that are working with cars or doing stuff with technology, or I mean, there's so many great fields where you can get certifications or work for unions or do whatever it is that you do if you're great with hands-on stuff, or you're one of the mind that's the complete opposite of mine where you're great with tech. I think that's amazing. It's just not, it should be something that is talked about more in high schools, and it should be a viable
100%.
path that is not looked down on, because there's no reason to look down at those people built our society and they help our society run. And not if you want to be a teacher or a doctor or a therapist or a lawyer, yes, you've got to go to college. But if you don't want to do certain things, you don't need to go to college. Not everybody has to go that route.
Right. Yeah. Coming from the scholar.
Well, I mean, that's, and I love that because that's honesty.
Yeah.
And that's awesome. And, like Mike Rowe is one of my favorite guys out there. He's from Dirty Jobs, and he preaches. He goes out there and does speaking events about how our trades are failing. Like, everybody's going to want to build a company like Microsoft, but nobody can fix your toilet.
Right.
And so these are all jobs that we all live in a society to where we're so comfortable that what happens when 2 or 3 of those comfort levels fall to the wayside because nobody's going to do it anymore.
Yeah. Right? And I will tell you, like, just this past year, I was working in my kitchen and all of a sudden I looked over and there's literally water pouring from my dining room ceiling.
No.
Swear. And I'm like, okay. So, like, does it matter, like, what degrees I have? I can't fix the roof. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if I have a plumbing problem or a roof problem. So, it's like those are the people that are making stuff run, putting things back together. Like, you have to call the restoration people and the roof people. I don't know how to do any of that stuff. But I can't do what I do if they don't help me. It's
all
can't,
connected.
if you don't have anybody serving food in the school and you have hungry kids, or you don't have a custodian cleaning things up so that your classrooms are livable, your kids can't learn. So respect those people because they're building the environment.
And hard jobs. They are hard physically wearing jobs,
Well, I think that what's missing from the equation, and I think really ties the whole entire segment that we've been talking together, is that there's a lack of awareness of self, awareness of who you are, what you want, what makes you happy. There's no emphasis on the happy. There's emphasis on how much money can you make. And there's nothing wrong inherently with that because, yes, that's great. You want to be able to support yourself and you're thinking a little bit ahead. but there's so many steps before you get there that are missing from the equation when kids are doing the career research and thinking about what's good, because not everyone can or should do the trades. Not everyone can or should be a lawyer or all the things in between. And that's where I feel like my business, my whole entire essence in business is like shifting into career coaching and aptitude testing, because it places the emphasis on the student, on the internal. And that's something I would love to see be taught in high schools, and to be like
Yeah.
bringing the kid into the equation, right? Having them have autonomy and ownership of who are you? What do you feel? What do you like? Get that practice of being able to express your needs. And I think that that can solve, that's like a root issue that will solve a lot of these issues. And then systemically, like the high schools being, again, I know some are better than others, but being able to give those channels and support to the students who are interested in the trades without that feeling of like shame, or that, you know, this is less, or this isn't a
Yeah.
good option, or that, you know, oh, you can't learn in school, so you just should learn by, you know, doing a trade, right? Which again, maybe that is your route, but what does the kid want to do,
And
right?
I don't think we're not preparing our kids to adult. You know, we're wondering why so many people are coming home from college because they can't make it, or, you know, whatever the situation is. We're not preparing our kids in high school to learn about money, to learn about taxes, to learn about how do you,
That's
you
right.
know, interview for a job? How do you write a resume? How do you, you know, deal with X, Y, and Z situations that are going to come up in your life? And so I think that's a real disservice that we really need to address in this country,
Right.
because it's, you know,
Kids should be employable
it's,
after high school. If they don't want to go to college, they should have skills to get an entry level job somewhere, I believe.
yeah,
And
or just, you know, skills
yeah,
to go into college with. Like, how do you advocate for yourself? You know, how do you,
huge.
like, what do you do if you run into X, Y, Z situation? You know, where do you go for help? What resources are out there? Who do you go to ask questions to if you need help with whatever it is? And I don't think these kids are prepared to do that. I don't know. I don't think I was either. I don't know if you guys felt like you were,
Well,
but
you
I
know, I
don't
think
know
a
that
lot of
I
that
was.
when I was younger, way back in my day, you know, I say it like that, but listen, in the early 1900s, right, or the late
Oh
1900s,
my God, I'm so glad you're
um,
like younger than me. I was worried being from 1874 that this would not go well. Okay, I feel good now.
listen, we learned from to me, education was always the extension was going to school because you were getting educated at home. That stopped somewhere along the line, and that's when a lot of kids had kids because they became friends, and it wasn't a parent child relationship, it was more of a friend relationship. And there was a certain time to where if you don't have life experience, because life experience is an education in itself,
Hmm.
if you don't have life experience in order to say, hey, listen, I had to file bankruptcy twice because I did XYZ, or you guys are learning together. So that a lot of that was being stemmed from home. And so now schools are becoming where parents are just like, strap you there, and that's where you're going to learn everything because I don't want to
Hmm.
teach you anything. You know, I taught my kids, I got two girls, I taught both of my kids about sex education at an early age because I don't want a 16-year-old pregnant kid coming home. I don't want to afford that. You know, I want them to have a life. I want them to be able to do things. And so it took like that. And curiosity always kills the cat. So if you hide information from your kids, there's certain things you don't want to share. I get that until they're old enough to be able to process it. But if you hide certain things from your kids, all you're doing is a disjustice because the younger they are, the more of a sponge they are, the more they are able to absorb that.
Hmm.
And so the world kind of turned, right? The world pivoted a little bit on how things were happening at home and then what the school's expectations were at the same time. But when I was in high school, we had a workman's program where you were they taught you how to fill out a W-2. They taught you about taxes. They talked to you about how to fill out an application, and then if you took that class, this is why I took that class, you were able to leave high school at noon because you were supposedly had a job, right? And you would go to that job. When I say supposedly, so at the age of 16, I had my own business. I was an entrepreneur when I was 14. And I was meant to work for myself, and there was a lot of failure to get to where I'm at today. That was my education. I never did college. I was a chef. I did teach in culinary, but at the same time, I learned how
School
to
of
do
Hard
things
Knocks.
from school. Yes, well, yes. City life back in the 80s and 90s was a little bit different than it is today, you know. But I agree with you. I love the fact that you both are bringing that. Because that's like it's like saying Voldemort now. We don't speak upon that, right? It needs to be. Awareness is key, I think, to anything you do, and making things more aware. And listen out there for Jamie the Scholar. You know what? You can call, get a free consultation, 888-577-3224. When they call that number, they're not going to get the bot, are they? Is it going to be like,
There is no bot. They're going to get me.
it's going to be you. She likes midnight calls. Feel free. No.
Absolutely my favorite. Especially since you've offered to field them all. I really appreciate that. That's great.
Not a problem. My voice turns into this at night. Hello. Why don't you just tell me the name of the movie?
Give a Seinfeld reference?
It is. Yes.
Thank you for
we are that
calling
old.
Jamie the Scholar.
I appreciate it. I know that we're coming close to time here, so we're gonna probably have to wrap it up. But I really enjoyed having you here today, and
Thank you for
love
having
what
me.
you're doing out there. If anybody's looking to have their kids, talk to Jamie and talk to Jamie for themselves as well about their kids being tutored in something that they would like to learn. Make sure jamiethescholar.com. That's jamiethescholar.com. Once again, 888-577-3224. Call Jamie. She is the fix-it person for that scenario. We appreciate you coming to the show. Anything else that you want to add?
Yeah, just thanks to Jackie for having me, and thanks Drew for setting this all up for me. So it's wonderful to be here and talk with you guys.
Happy you can make it, Jamie.
That's awesome. Okay. Anything else you want to say?
No, we are ready to help your children. Give us just a call, even if it's just a curious question, because if you don't even think you need a tutor, we know a lot of people in the support space, education, teen support space. So
That's awesome.
we are awesome
A lot of
community
resources.
resources.
And listen, folks, it doesn't cost any money to ask a question or to make a phone call. And have known Jackie for a long time. If your kid's gearing up to go to that college or gearing up to figure out what they want to do after high school, that would be a great person. Jackie, how do they get hold of you?
ConsciousCollegePlanning.com, or just shoot me an email, Jackie@ConsciousCollegePlanning.com. Good luck spelling it. You might need to Google that one. But yeah, thanks so much, Drew. Appreciate you.
No problem. Until next time, folks, here at Let's Talk Local. What do we say, Jackie? How do we end it?
We talk local and listen global.